So good evening. Hey, let's give a big shout out to the Norco High School singers over there. And how about that CRC Honor Guard? Thank you so much for coming on out and helping us out here in Norco. So what do you think of this clam bake around here? Nice? Huh? It's kind of hard to hear up here, so bear with me. So I want to welcome you all, friends, neighbors, guests to our community. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's really, really appreciated. I want to thank, first off, Supervisor Spiegel for being our MC tonight. She's a good sport, and she watches out for Norco. Now we have a lot of special guests tonight. We have, and I'll read through those in just a little bit. How many commissioners do we have here from the city of Norco? Raise your hand. Park and Rec. Streets and Trails. Wave your hands. That's part of our team. We could not get along without them. Measure R Committee. Anybody here? So I want to thank the folks here at Silver Lakes for allowing us to hold the state of the city in their location. And I want to thank all our neighbors who made this evening possible. Not only are your sponsorships appreciated, I forgot I have to do this. There we go. So I want to talk about the sponsors. We're also grateful that you've chosen Norco as your place to do business. It's really, really appreciated. We have Better Nutritionals, Caprock, City of Norco, Vitamin Friends, Waste Management, Karen Spiegel, Norco College, Silver Lakes, Wildan, and WRCOG. I want to point out a couple of people. Sharon Hoffman with Better Nutritionals. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. Please wave. That's a wonderful, we're so proud to have you in Norco. Patrick Daniels, Caprock, building the Palomino Project. Wave your hand. I never thought I'd say this, but working with this developer was actually pleasurable. Monica Green, the president of Norco College. RJ Brandis, give a wave. Tony Winicki, the director over at our Navy base. Give a wave, Tony. Thank you for coming out. Tony was the one that got the anchor for our memorial. We always appreciate that. And of course you saw Karen. And I guess at the moment, now we got a whole group of WRCOG folks out there. The assistant director, Chris Gray, is back there and a bunch of other people. Give a wave. And I want to thank the staff that put this together, although they might be sorry after I'm done. Kelly Newton, Matt, Dana Roa, city clerk. Give a wave. Thank you very much for doing all this for me. So what I want to do tonight is show photographs of Norco. And sometimes they may not quite seem like they match, but you'll get it as I talk. So it's been my privilege and honor to serve as the mayor of Norco for the year 2021. And I am proud to serve the community my family has lived in since 1961. I am proud that we are in fact, against enormous odds and a very tough year, still a community, and the spirit of Norco as exemplified by our Norco Animal Rescue Team, volunteers, is not only well, but widely and increasingly known. My job tonight is to tell the good news, the great news, and the not so good news. And my sincerest hope is to accomplish 3 goals. I want to remind folks, and if you are here tonight, you likely already know this, that our community is special. We are patriotic. We care about our neighbors. We wave at our deputies, firefighters, and volunteer citizens on patrol to let them know we appreciate what they do. Secondly, I want to encourage folks that our community is worth fighting for. Let's face it, we are the last standing semi-rural city in California, a patch of green surrounded by an ever-growing sea of concrete. I know things have changed and our lifestyle has taken a few hits, but still, we have trails, large lots, and lots of open space, and we are financially strong and resilient. We have a first-class fire and police protection and a staff that cares. Finally, I hope to inspire Norconians to keep up the fights, and yes, I mean fights, that is plural, and to carry and pass the flag from generation to generation. There are tons of opportunities to volunteer, from manning food banks to giving donations, joining service clubs to coaching, working the youth sports snack bars, fighting to save our history, to simply taking tickets at the Norco Fair. I encourage all to give some time to Norco. I want to point out staff. It is my hope tonight that folks will realize that our small but mighty community is accomplishing things that communities twice, 3 times, 4 times our size have not accomplished, and that those achievements, this is some of the great news, have been executed by our city staff. I think a thank you is in order for our entire Norco City staff. Now, I see some of my Eastville friends over there. I saw Clint, I saw the city manager. Don't take offense at what I'm about to say. I want to introduce the finest city manager in the Inland Empire, Andy Okoro. Please stand, Andy. You know, he looked through my speech and he thought he was going to cut out all the nice things I was going to say about him, and I just put them all back. Andy saved this city financially. Where I'm standing today would not be here if Andy had not stepped in and organized an effort that was Herculean. And I will always be grateful for Andy saving financially the city of Norco and for building this wonderful park. I really appreciate what he's done. We also have the finest assistant city manager and park and recreation director, Brian Petrie, back there. Brian is an amazing human being. I always tell people, if you want to be a city council member, get on the Park and Rec Commission and have Brian mentor you. City Clerk Dana Roa, again, the best city clerk in the entire Inland Empire. Public Works Director Chad Blaze, I didn't see Chad, is he around? Director of Finance, Lisette Free. If you want a bean counter, she's the one to count your beans. Planning Director Alma Robles. And of course, our incredible Police Chief, Justin Rowan. And Fire Chief, Jeff Vike. That guy is amazing. Jeff, he just went up and saved like 5 towns up in Northern California. Next, I want to point out your city council. And this is some of the good news I spoke of earlier. We as council members walk the same streets you all walk. We shop at the same stores, eat at the same restaurants. We volunteer for big and small jobs, just like many of you. And we don't have personal staff or anybody else who stands between us and you, the 5 you have elected to represent you. Our phone numbers are common knowledge. Our emails are on the City of Norco website, as is the number to City Hall. If you want to talk to a council person, just pick up the phone or call the city clerk's office and make an appointment to sit face to face with your elected officials. You won't have to wait weeks for an appointment, and you won't be meeting an aide or a staff member. Let me introduce the 4 folks that you have elected to represent your community other than me. Mayor Pro Tem Greg Newton. Give a wave, I can't see out there. I feel like I'm back on the stage. It's like this big dark. Councilmember Catherine Alleman, Councilmember Robin Grunmeyer, and Councilmember Ted Hoffman. There they all are, right there. I would like to look back at my 2012 State of the City address. As you can see by this graph, Norco was facing truly tough times, and our general fund balance was dropping like a rock. Oops. This is where we were. The Great Recession had devastated the community, and that economic tsunami gave a knockout blow to our single largest sales tax revenue generator, the auto mall. Sales tax revenues plummeted. We were forced to dip into our quickly depleting reserves, and our fund balance was below $2 million. In 2012, Norco residents were made aware of the many ways that money was saved to keep the city afloat: wage reductions, no cost of living increases, reduced work hours, and more. Department heads and a bare-bones staff were required to wear 2 and 3 hats to get the work done. Most residents have no idea how close Norco was to insolvency and how vulnerable we were to losing our lifestyle. As a relatively new councilman, I spent many a sleepless night trying to figure out how to dig out of a mighty deep hole. 2012, my job during the State of the City was to tell the truth, inspire and encourage Norconians to stay tough, be confident, and remind all why we lived in this special town in the first place. That was worth fighting for. And I promised that we would get through this, because that is what Norco does and had done for over 80 years. The last slide of the evening at that 2012 State of the City stated the following promise, quote, "Implement programs by March 31, 2013 to achieve fiscal sustainability for the City of Norco by June 30, 2017. And fiscal sustainability means a balanced general fund budget that maintains current service levels and establish a set-aside of $1 million infrastructure funding." That last goal is one we have exceeded by millions of additional dollars. But that promise just didn't mean putting bucks in the bank and fulfilling minimum requirements. It meant going above and beyond to do what every once rural and semi-rural city found to be impossible: protect our equestrian lifestyle by protecting our large lots connected to trails, connected to open space, to provide not just minimum public safety, but increasingly excellent service by maintaining our share of substation against enormous financial odds, increasing deputy hours, and partnering with CAL FIRE to provide an outstanding and comprehensive fire service. It meant supporting our seniors, our young athletes, providing quality water, repairing infrastructure, paving roads, maintaining our parks, and a million other requirements to fulfill our motto, city living in a rural atmosphere. Well, quite a few on social media. Do you all know what social media is? And sometimes people say a lot of stuff on it. Well, they said impossible. But my view, the impossible is exactly what our staff and council achieved. Not perfection, but the impossible nevertheless. Beginning in 2012, we set 3 basic goals that have directly led to Norco's solvency and today's existence as the last standing equestrian-based city in California. 1, streamline city operations. This meant our city staff accepted less pay and benefits to save our city, and in many cases perform multiple tasks and duties that normally would be manned by 2 and sometimes 3 employees and department heads. 2, diversify income stream. No longer put all eggs in one basket, the auto mall. Diversification meant we had to find other types of businesses to supplement the auto industry. We needed businesses who were willing to take a flyer on Norco. The goal was to create a diversified income stream so that if one business had a downturn, the hope was another business would stay strong and hold in place our financial bottom line. This was tough, as a basic requirement was any new business must be compatible with our lifestyle, support our way of life, and not destroy it. You would not believe the businesses we turned away from our city. 3, better communication with residents. Up to this point, our main way of getting in touch was the water bill and a very poor website, and neither were cutting it. Unfortunately, social media was filling the gap, and misinformation was dominating the narrative. 2016, City Council, all city commissions, advisory boards, and the public created a strategic plan as a guide to attain our goals in our city. We envisioned that in the year 2025, quote, Norco will be widely known as Horsetown, USA, a family-friendly and attractive destination community that enjoys and promotes a diverse recreation and animal-keeping lifestyle. That meant everything from equestrian activities to fun stuff for kids, to youth sports, to music and dance programs, to doll making and pickleball for seniors, to wheelchair basketball. Since it started here, we might as well have a tournament. That's what we did. We set a course to improve roads, sewer, and storm drains, create a better website, apps, and programs to better inform residents. develop new revenue sources, and continue prudent financial management, increase sales tax revenues by attracting new business, and improve fire and police protection. A decade ago, we established a very aggressive program to attract a wide range of diversified businesses. Staff, council, and even local business people traveled to conventions where retailers, hoteliers, and other businesses gathered to pitch Norco as the place they wanted to be. In the early days, most companies wouldn't give us the time of day, and of course, we heard the famous phrase, "Where the hell is Norco?" I remember very well Kathy Azevedo dragging me around one of these huge convention halls, and we just kept having doors slammed in our face, and she just would not give up. Then Silver Lakes happened. I would like to take a few moments to set the record straight on this genuinely incredible project. At the 2009 State of City Address, when the future Silver Lakes was a weed patch for goats, I stated, quote, "This one-of-a-kind facility should be a destination point, an attraction that will bring people to local restaurants, hotels, and other businesses. The opening and subsequent build-out of Silver Lakes will be a game changer." This statement was met with quite a bit of skepticism and commenting, but the fact is, the day I said this, I should have played the lottery. Look around us. The day I said those words, that's what it looked like, and I will never forget. I called up Brian Petrie and I said, "Brian, can we get rid of the sign?" He said, "Well, it's our sign, of course we can." And I was like, oh my God, it was up there for like 2 years. The new sign. Silver Lakes was and continues to be a game changer for Norco. It provided a ticket for our small and financially struggling town to get a seat at the table of the big game. An attraction that would not touch any neighborhood in Norco and would bring millions of folks who would come, stay, play, leave big bucks in our local economy, and go home. There's been a lot of controversy about this park, but as someone who's been involved since 2002, first as a Park and Recreation Commissioner and later as a City Council person, what has been built thus far is almost exactly what was planned during multiple public meetings with hundreds in attendance almost 2 decades ago, and it is not close to being finished. There are a few items dropped off along the way, the largest being the Hunter Jumper facility, but the fact is that industry has become so expensive, it simply would not have been financially feasible to build. Now, a bit about what I call Norco luck. In my view, Norco has narrowly avoided becoming paved over by concrete many, many times, and a key factor has been just plain luck. When the freeway was delayed until 1989, developers couldn't get to us except for a 2-lane highway, and our water and roads were so bad, bunches of cracker box houses couldn't be supported. This right here, this is Hamner Avenue, 1989. It was a happening city. I loved it. I lived here then. So we were pretty much left alone by developers. Well, a lot of fighting and a whole bunch of recalls, but most important, we had time to finally figure out who we were, how the majority wanted to live, and put laws in place to protect our equestrian lifestyle. The same luck came in the form of the Great Recession, slowing construction of Silver Lakes. Had the park been built on time, the flood of December 2010 would have destroyed it. And had the high-end Hunter Jumper facility been built, it would not only have been destroyed like every other building on the property, but it would have been empty. The fact is, this park has overcome and survived the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression, a genuinely inept grand jury decision, a small group of gadflies who routinely misinformed residents, a catastrophic flood, fires, and now a pandemic. And it still became an extraordinary success that has attracted significant commerce to our city. commerce that is needed to sustain our large lots to trails to open space. So much credit needs to go to our city manager, Andy Okoro, our former city manager, Beth Groves, Senator Richard Roth, 3 visionary council persons, the late Kathy Azevedo, Hal Clark and Frank Hall, former city manager Ed Hatzenbuehler, Park and Recreation Director Brian Petrie, Governor Jerry Brown, and without a doubt, R.J. Brandis, who not only stuck, yeah, give him applause, he deserves it. R.J. Brandis not only stuck by Norco and his vision, but he put up millions of dollars out of his own pocket to make it happen. By the way, I know all of the above is true because I was there every step of the way. By 1916, Norco had attracted significant and diverse businesses to Norco, something not easy to do when you're a town of 25,000 residents. Repeatedly, I was told by new businesses that they love Norco because it's safe, clean, and business friendly. Perfect? No. But we try harder to not only attract business, but to make them happy once part of the Norco family. Tractor Supply. That was a huge component in Norco's diversified income stream, along with Hobby Lobby. Now, by 1916, the plan, with a few hiccups, was clearly working as we flipped from having to depend on what little reserves we had to balance our budget to consistently living within our means and growing our fund balance. Notice here, notice how this line is now steadily going up. We went from near bankruptcy and a plan that I've got to give a big shout out to Kathy Azevedo, because she came back and was just gangbusters in getting a diversified income stream, trying to get a whole bunch of different businesses. This is the line that we followed. You got to give a shout out to Greg Newton back there too, because he was part of that whole team and plan. Give a wave, Greg. By 2016, the plan on February 5th, 2020, that was a huge day for the city of Norco, when we hit a fund balance of $14+ million. And understand, that's where we were. Now we're up past that. When we hit this, my goal in 2012, 2012 was to hit $10 million. We exceeded that. A third-year progress report on the strategic plan was presented to the Norco City Council. It stated, quote, virtually every action plan enumerated in the plan has now been achieved. Now, what does that mean? Perfection? No. Has every street, trail, and water pipe been renovated, fixed, or paved to perfection? No. That our deputies have slowed, stopped, and or arrested every single speeder or crazy that runs a stop sign? No. Has every code violation been addressed and corrected? No. But I will tell you what it does mean. First, per our consultant who helped craft our strategic plan, we were one of the few cities who had plans that actually met all of our goals, and by following those guidelines, we dug ourselves out of an economic hole many cities are still mired in, and we're in a better position to weather the terrible pandemic. That said, as I reminded in 2016 and again today, Norco is like a bumblebee with iron wings. It should not financially fly, but it does. The survival of Norco's lifestyle has always been viewed by not a few folks as an impossible endeavor, meaning we must not rest and we must keep searching for diversified income streams that fund and support, not destroy our lifestyle. Because of our large lots, we simply have never generated enough property tax to maintain our equestrian lifestyle and amenities associated with urbanized cities. In the beginning, and Danny Azevedo was there, my mom was there, I was there. When we formed as a city, folks understood and accepted that they would have to do without pretty roads, sewer and storm drain systems. We all lived with flooding, and when septic tanks overflowed, raw sewage was simply pumped into the streets. Folks were okay with hot brown water coming from their faucets and potholes. All those things were just the price to be paid to protect and preserve elbow room and large lots connected to makeshift and pretty substandard horse trails that connected to very rugged open space. Those were and are the key ingredients, open space, trails, large lots, to fostering an equestrian lifestyle. And those folks, our pioneers, were willing to pay the price as other rural communities folded one after another. We all benefit because of the sacrifice of Norco old-timers who held the line. And again, I know this because I was there. Well, that all changed. And you probably helped with that change when residents decided they wanted both the rural lifestyle and city amenities. No more brown water. They didn't want oil for streets instead of asphalt. Today, we all take for granted clean water, decent roads, and more than one deputy on duty in the middle of the night. Back in the day, it was incorporated to preserve our rural lifestyle. Those are tough people. This is our new city seal. Our city motto was changed to incorporate it to preserve our rural atmosphere, to city living in a rural atmosphere. City living in a rural atmosphere. And Norco did the impossible. We not only survived as the last standing semi-rural equestrian city in California, we developed and sustained modern infrastructure, public safety, communication services, and more. Services that cities 5 times our size cannot provide. Perfect? No. But when one realizes we prevailed where so many were bought out, paved over, or just plain gave up, impossible is not an exaggeration. I'm sorry, Eastvale, to pick on you guys. I love your city. It's a life support system for Corky's Restaurant. We're just different. And just so you know, joking aside, the Eastvale City Council and the Norco City Council, we get along very well. We've done many, many projects, including this bridge you're seeing constructed out here together. So, it's quite incredible to think, given what is going on around us, that Norco since 2009 has lost only one agricultural parcel to commercial development. The A1 neighborhoods where we all live have remained almost entirely intact as half-acre and larger lots. We have survived, and not only survived, we have prospered. And that has allowed us not only to protect our rural lifestyle, but add significantly to city living, the city living part of our community motto. Since 2016, we have continued to aggressively attract multiple types of businesses to Norco: restaurants, hotels, supermarkets, industrial companies, and more. This has led to a growing fund balance and reserve and extraordinary prosperity to a town our size. I'm going to highlight just a few of these businesses. CarMax, the largest used car retailer in the nation and a Fortune 500 company, is now open on 2nd Street at the freeway, selling cars and contributing sales tax revenue to the city's general fund. It is very important to note that council in the past rejected the conversion of this property from A1 to commercial, but a change occurred. State laws changed, and state legislators with supermajority power, a willing governor, and the court system were becoming increasingly stacked against denying high-density apartments for any reason. There are some who claim the above statement was and is just an excuse, a lie to put profits before people. Well, that is simply not true. It is important to note that any profits received are to protect our way of life. Additionally, the City Council insisted that CarMax follow through on its original design concepts and promises to create a greenbelt buffer between the business and the neighborhood. This company has bent over backwards to overcome serious errors, keep their commitments and pledges, and become good neighbors. In my opinion, the partnership between council, staff, and CarMax has created what is very likely the best-looking CarMax in California. And with only a small amount of car trips on a busy day, this dealership will be far less intrusive than a high-density housing complex completely devoid of local control that would have injected thousands of car trips a day on both 2nd Street and Valley View. CarMax was controversial. I was glad to hear applause, because CarMax was controversial, but will likely be one of our largest sales tax generators for many years to come. The sales tax generated by CarMax will fund public safety, recreation, public works, and our lifestyle needs for generations. Saddle Ranch Business Center, completed in 2019, is a 4-building development designed for businesses dedicated to innovative manufacturing, research, development, and technology. I am so proud to have this complex in Norco. I can't even tell you. Last year, the entire project, more than 450,000 square feet of space, was leased by Better Nutritionals, one of the fastest growing FDA-approved manufacturers of vitamins and over-the-counter supplements in the nation. The company is creating its headquarters campus at this site, moving operations from Los Angeles County to Norco. Better Nutritionals may ultimately bring, and I just found out I got to change my numbers. Right now you have almost 1,000 people working there. He'd like to have another 500 or so. Well-paying jobs to Norco. And if you've ever had a tour of this place, I mean, they really take care of their employees. I mean, they feed them. It's amazing. This classy and employee-friendly company, which manufactures the popular Goldie line of projects, was attracted to Norco because of access to a skilled workforce, the city's strategic location, and other business-friendly attitude. Better Nutritionals is committed to Norco, has hired people from the community, and wants to play a meaningful role in Norco's future. The selection of Norco as the company's new headquarters is a testament to what we've been doing to attract new business, and we welcome them to town. The Norco Village Shopping Center was the result of a concerted partnership between Lewis Retail Centers and the City of Norco, and very importantly, a genuine vision by council members who were very involved for a decade in the creation and development of this extremely successful center. I don't know if you've been there and shopped, but it's really wonderful. Palomino Business Park. The recently approved Palomino Business Park, a 110-acre development with nearly 2 million square feet of space, will accommodate the Inland Empire region's leadership in the digital marketplace that is now driving the American economy. For Palomino Business Park and Saddle Ranch Business Center Phase 2, we look forward to attracting more world-class companies like Better Nutritionals and are working with the developer in identifying revenue-generating tenants. It is important to note this is not a truck depot. City Council was very clear that this was to be an industrial center with buildings equivalent in size, scope, and truck traffic found, for example, at the Easy Up complex on 2nd Street and the Jeffrey Court complex on Park Ridge. And there will be a significant greenbelt buffer surrounding the entire complex, Palomino. And the Palomino folks have already proven to be good neighbors to Norco, agreeing to all of our conditions of approval, and there were a lot of them. And by funding in large part the Gold Star family, freedom fighters, and Kathy Azevedo's Spirit of Norco Monument, plus an additional $2 million in public benefit contribution. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate it. Hotels are a key source of significant income to support our lifestyle, and competition to get them is fierce between cities. Eastville doesn't know it yet, but we're annexing that big box sitting up on the hill. I don't know why you're laughing. I'm serious. I got a supervisor here who's going to help me. I'm just kidding. The reason being each franchise must be some distance away from a like franchise hotel, meaning if one of the large chains land in Norco, it can't land in neighboring areas, so it's very competitive. We have several new hotels on the horizon, including a True Hotel by Hilton, and 2 other hotels are in the pipeline. And thanks to staff, most particularly now retired Roger Grody, even the long-delayed Holiday Inn Express and Fifth and Hamner appears to have new life. I am also very excited by a promising idea to build a beautiful boutique hotel of 68 rooms with a large meeting room, sit-down restaurant, and 2 specialty eateries. And I have a hunch that Councilwoman Alleman was the person that closed that deal. She was very impressive when we met with that hotel builder. I want to give a shout out to her. And again, to provide perspective, hotels are in areas that do not impact neighborhoods, and because of the huge number of visitors to Silver Lakes and events at the Georgia Ingalls Equestrian Event Center, they contribute huge dollars to our economy. Other new businesses that have been thriving in Norco include the Grocery Outlet, which selected Norco as its first location in the region. I have to give a big shout out to the owners of our grocery outlet, John and Karen, because they have been incredibly generous to multiple Norco-based community groups, especially in contributions of food to people that just don't have enough to eat. We've also attracted several high-volume used car dealerships that are adding substantial revenue to the city's general fund at a time when used vehicles are in great demand. To give perhaps a new understanding and perspective on car dealerships and their value, Norco literally survived financially for almost 3 decades on the revenues from car sales alone. 2 key dealerships are Hemborg Ford, seen here, and Browning Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep Ram, and the Jeep Ram dealership. Now, I want to thank the residents. I want to thank the majority of residents who trusted both the City Council and staff's judgment, expertise, and track record of fiscal responsibility and voted to pass Measure R. I also want to once again thank our city manager, Andy Okoro. He's probably shrinking over there. I can't quite see him. When nobody thought this could happen, he said it could. And he got a group of residents together and they put this plan, they put a whole huge outreach into effect, and we did it. You did it. Thank you for your vote if you voted for it, and I hope, even if you didn't, you appreciate the fact that we have a whole bunch of money we never had before and we're fixing all kinds of stuff. That ballot measure enacted a 1 penny addition to sales tax that comes directly to the city of Norco, and much of this tax is paid by visitors to the city, not residents. In the past 3 years, we have resurfaced or reconstructed miles of streets, miles of water or sewer lines, and miles of new trail fencing. I also want to thank the members of the Measure R Oversight Committee for performing under great pressure and working to the best of their ability to ensure that the Measure R funds were and are properly spent. This was a big job with important consequences. And to note, unlike most cities with similar tax measures, none of the revenues generated from Measure R has gone to pay employees' salaries or benefits, even though they were still working below most other cities. They have all been dedicated. All the funding has been dedicated to funding important community infrastructure projects. Because Measure R now contributes more than $6 million a year in new revenues, we were able to adopt our most aggressive capital improvement program budget in the city's history. And I want you all to make sure you check out this website. We have a really nifty, interactive capital improvement project webpage. Residents can just type in an address and find out exactly what construction jobs are being performed and when their own streets will be sealed or repaved. To add to our communication tools to better inform residents, we will soon be unveiling a brand new and far more comprehensive website. This is really exciting. We've come a long way from posting on the water bill. Against some pretty tough odds, Norco, because of our financial strength and resiliency, has not only been able to remain a full-service city, but we have also survived COVID-19 in remarkably good financial condition. Norco's diverse tax base made us resilient. Furthermore, the delinquent payments of property taxes and utility bills that damaged the finances of cities across America were much less pronounced in Norco. In the second quarter of 2020, that was the very depths of the pandemic and lockdown, when sales tax revenues tumbled about 20% statewide. They were only down 4% in Norco. Of course, there were negative impacts in Norco, as some businesses that had planned to open put that decision on hold, and financing for major projects was delayed. But overall, we fared incredibly well thanks to the exceptional financial and economic planning foresight of our city manager and our city council. Let's give our city council a hand. They voted right. In fact, in spite of the pandemic, Norco is not just surviving, but thriving, and we're now welcoming new businesses that will shape the Norco economy for decades to come. So what does the bottom line really look like to you, aside from just numbers and figures? massive trail improvements, new park play structures, improved playing fields for youth sports, strengthening our deputy force, providing top-notch fire protection, completing Ingalls Park to create a premier equestrian venue, an increasingly rare Southern California event facility. I want to give a shout out to Councilman Hoffman, who spends hours and hours and hours up at Ingalls Park making it look pretty and helping in the planning and the future planning of that park. Let's give a shout out there. So, what else makes Norco special? We're home to Hopalong Mickey. You can snuggle a camel. You can converse with a tortoise. And you can grab a burger from Cowboy Bob, the only Bob with a cowboy hat. So seriously, how about support the U.S. Navy? We are home to the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Corona Division in Norco. And the actual name has Norco in its title. Thank you to Tony Winicki, who got the name changed for us. Our base, and it's our base, is described by the Navy as the hidden power player in Navy data analytics and warfare support. Norco has a proud history with the Navy in Norco, and we are currently working with a developer in a public-private partnership to hopefully create a tech bridge complex that could lead to hundreds more high-paying jobs in our city and serve to make our nation safer. Norco College, aside from offering affordable classes for those seeking to save money and retool for better jobs, is home to one of the best veterans resource centers in the United States. The Norco College president's here, Monica Green. Doctor, could you give a wave? By the way, for many years she was a Norco resident. Now, that Veterans Center I just spoke of is about ready to open. And it is really spiffy, and I can't wait. And they are leading the way in the nation to get vets college credit for the jobs they performed while in the military. That is a program that began here in Norco. And I always tell this story. When a kiddo comes up with their parents and they tell me, oh, well, we're just going to Norco College, I come back with, wow, you are so lucky to attend the best community college in the state and so smart to save all that money. And did you know if you keep up the old GPA at the home of the Mustangs, you can transfer into just about any four-year school you want to go to. Go Mustangs. CRC, Warden, where are you? Wave, give a wave back there. And your staff, he brought a whole bunch of people here. California Rehabilitation Center is generally incredible what the folks who man this facility, as well as the inmates, contribute to all kinds of community charities. Literally thousands of dollars each year. And again, how about that honor guard? Weren't they something? I don't know if you could see them. They were really sharp. Equally amazing are the educational opportunities afforded to inmates through Norco College and Pomona Pitzer, one of the top four-year schools in the nation. These opportunities directly and successfully keep a huge percentage of inmates, of people, from returning to prison and offer a completely new and productive life. Thank you, Warden, and your staff for what you do. And I'm going to throw in a zinger, Warden, forgive me. And my sense is, the new Warden, there may be a deeper appreciation for the history of the site. As many know, that site has been deemed by the State Historical Resources Commission to be worthy of listing on the State Historic Register. Doesn't mean we fight to save everything, but some select historical resources. For example, the stained glass in the former St. Luke's Chapel built during World War II. I'm hoping we can save that. I think it's moving, huh? All right. Corona Norco Unified School District. Just a few years ago, upgraded and modernized Norco High School, built Kennedy Middle School, and most recently completely renovated Norco Elementary and Norco Intermediate School, making Norco home to some of the most beautiful schools in the entire Inland Empire. What else about our small community that prompts generation after generation to fight so hard to protect our lifestyle through good times and bad? We welcome all to our lifestyle, regardless of color, race, creed, gender, rich or poor. The fact is, the majority of our community has been embracing diversity long before it was fashionable, both through our refusal to segregate neighborhood schools, city hiring practices, who we voted for, and the abolishment of housing redlining, all decades before many other surrounding communities. We are patriots. Our little town's recent turnout to receive one of our own from Afghanistan was magnificent, and it is an event I pray to never see again. My hometown support of the family of Lance Corporal Kareem Nakui has been incredible. But as many have stated, that is what Norco does. That spirit and the vow to never forget is deep in Norco's DNA. That is why we refuse to forget, dishonor, and disrespect those thousands of sailors and Marines who died in Norco at the old Naval Hospital, and we fight to make sure no one else does. Norco does not forget whether you died serving your country in 1942 in a tuberculosis hospital unit, in the jungles of Vietnam, to a concert given to you as a terrible payment for your service decades past, or just days ago in Afghanistan. That is what Norco does. We are not just a city, not just a town. We are a community in the truest sense of the word. We don't forget. In fact, we build memorials to remind those who follow in our footsteps that they should also not forget. I pray those who follow me pick up that torch. We also do not forget those civilians who sacrificed and paid an enormous price to protect and preserve our Norco way of life. The Kathy Azevedo Spirit of Norco Monument is now in design, and names of hardworking Norconians will be etched on granite so we never forget whose shoulders we stand on moving forward. And again, Patrick and Caprock, thank you very much for that. It is ironic and sad that we were in the process of building our Gold Star Family Memorial when news of Kareem Nakoi's sacrifice was announced, and little did we know that his cousin, who was actually building the monument, would be building this shrine for his own family. By the way, did you know that Norco is home to a first-class golf course? Now the tough news. Despite our many successes, the city of Norco is facing some of the toughest challenges to our lifestyle since our incorporation in 1964. When I ran for city council in 2009 for the first time, I ran on the platform that Norco was a target for carpetbagging developers, none of which are present tonight, from across California. They wanted our dirt. And as my good friend J.T. Garot likes to say, we got to protect the dirt because, let's face it, they ain't making any more dirt, and without dirt, there ain't no Norco. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine we would have to wrangle with our own state legislature, who seems pretty intent on stripping away local zoning control and imposing their will. Never would I have believed that homelessness could explode into epic proportions. And I also could not foresee COVID-19. I don't have to tell you, we have all just come through one tough year. Everyone in this room knows friends, families, and neighbors who have lost jobs, shut down their businesses, have lost or are losing their homes, can't pay to keep the lights on, need food, and all too many have died from COVID-19. All of this occurred in our community while we were surrounded by a world that has been gripped in a catastrophic pandemic and a political savagery that our nation has never before seen. But what is the real face of COVID? In the midst of the politics and mask and vaccine debates, Norco lost 35 plus residents. There is no greater face of that loss than longtime Norco Public Works Superintendent Terry Perkowski. Norco High grad, getting ready to retire after decades of service to Norco, gruff, tough on the outside and a heart of gold on the inside. He will be missed. And we will miss that sweet smiling face of April Mondini, mom, wife, and artist. We miss them all. So, what new challenges do we face? Key to Norco's lifestyle is our zoning that protects large lots, to trails, to open space. Without all three, large animal keeping will go the way of the dodo bird. We began working as a community to protect our lifestyle through zoning beginning in 1948, and we became a city to stop county supervisors, no offense, Karen, you weren't even born yet, and developers from covering the town with small cracker box houses, homes, and concrete. Unfortunately, as you all know, in recent years, state legislatures and the governor have been directly attacking local control in an effort to dictate zoning from Sacramento. SB 9. Most recently, the supermajority and the governor pushed through Senate Bill 9, which essentially erases local single-family zoning and allows property to be split into 4 parcels with no input from neighbors, planning commission, or city council. Obviously, the horse areas in our area, La Sierra, Woodcrest, Yurupa Valley, and Norco, are now targets, and speculators hoping to cash in on SB 9 are coming in droves. You can see how we're a target. SB 10 opens the door to 10 to 14 unit apartment complexes in any single family neighborhood. What this means is that a person's home, generally their most valued retirement asset that possibly took decades of hard work to purchase, an asset that's value is dependent on location, could suddenly suffer a huge devaluation with the construction of a huge apartment building next door to their home. Both the state legislature and the governor chose to ignore over 200 and actually over 300 California City Council pleas to not pass SB 9 and 10, to erase decades of hard-fought and crafted zoning laws created by majorities of good people to make it nearly impossible for city councils to serve, represent, and protect people's neighborhoods and their homes in which they live, raise families, and lay their head. And if residents object, the name-calling begins. They're insultingly called NIMBYs, canceled, and as cities could suffer the wrath of powerful, and cities could suffer the wrath of a powerful and unelected state housing authority. The sad truth is, most folks have no idea what is coming, and likely will not know until a 14-unit apartment complex is built next to their single-family home, or a developer purchases the home next to them and builds not 1, not 2, but 3 additional houses and then cuts them up and sells them as independent lots. The claim by the state legislature is local government has not done enough to erase the housing crisis, and they, meaning the people who live in the town, should lose their right to self-govern. However, we are still trusted with the nearly impossible task of providing 100% local funding, clean water, police and fire protection, good roads, and more despite the unknown number of overwhelming numbers of new residents. Now, this does not mean we do not know our responsibility and will not do our part to build affordable homes. We have been, Norco, and are actively looking at ways to bring more housing to Norco so that our kids, grandkids, and parents can live here, and our veterans can afford to call Norco home. We've already had conversations with Senator Roth on legalizing and subsidizing already existing secondary units on properties in an effort to create affordable and work-where-you-live housing. We are actively engaged in developing some affordable housing projects, as well as smaller lot homes that would be non-intrusive to our neighborhoods. We are also not opposed to ADUs, accessory dwelling units. In fact, have supported granny flats for decades. However, we are again working with Senator Roth to have ADUs built under our building codes and not state building codes. For example, State mandated 4-foot setbacks from property lines can literally block off the back half of a horse property, not to mention fire engines. Most council people from surrounding cities I know want to do the right thing. We all want to help solve the problems, and we want our neighbors, constituents, family, and friends to have homes, to live well, and be able to take care of their families in clean, safe neighborhoods. Now, one of the blessings of living in California is our state elected officials value our state history and heritage, and in place is a system whereby local communities can become certified local governments, meaning after qualifying through a very rigorous vetting process, the state trusts us to determine what is and is not historic. Norco has in fact qualified as a certified local government, meaning we can determine what is and is not historic in our community. We have determined through the use of a very qualified historical resources consultant with a resume 5 feet long and using state historic survey and evaluation guidelines, some of the finest historians in the state of California, our history of fighting to keep the equestrian lifestyle, our heritage, and our survival as the last known and perhaps the only such Southern California equestrian city, not area within a city or county, but an entire city, qualifies Norco, Horsetown, USA, to be protected as a historic district. We are establishing a historic overlay over all A1 properties in Norco. The fact is, our community is uniquely historic as the only such community literally founded to protect an equestrian lifestyle. While there are areas in cities and counties that have equestrian areas, there is no other city like Norco. Trails on just about every street, Western architecture for commercial buildings, crosswalk buttons at rider level, corrals at our restaurants so that we can ride to lunch, large lots specifically zoned for horses, and miles of open space to ride. It is incredible to think that folks in the 1950s zoned out of animal keeping in Orange County found themselves in Norco, where they came together almost 70 years ago to fight county supervisors who were intent on putting a sea of small cracker box houses on small lots. Those folks who fought together were doctors, Navy missile scientists, chicken farmers, teachers, custodians, regular folks from all walks of life, all colors, all creeds, and they won the battle to maintain large lots so critical to their equestrian lifestyle. We're right back there again, but not with our supervisors who give us incredible support, especially Karen Spiegel. We're now fighting Sacramento. They then also fought off money developers to become a city. And council after council continued the David and Goliath battle to be the last equestrian city standing. That deserves a hand. That decades-long battle is reflected throughout Norco in every trail, every corral, every large lot, and all the open space along the Santa Ana rivers and in our hills to the east. That battle continues to this day. It is not only a great history, but what a great story. Norco is a great story. Today, we are not only known as Horsetown, USA, but historic Horsetown, USA. Candidly and unfortunately, I have lost faith that a majority of state legislature or the governor will negotiate housing issues in good faith and with common sense, particularly after they ignored 300 cities on the issue of SB 9 and SB 10. Now, I like to give credit where credit is due. At the moment, I do not include our own Assemblyperson Cervantes in that mix, as just a few days ago I personally heard her lobby on Norco's behalf before no less than the powerful Assembly Speaker driving so much of the current housing legislation. I was actually really pleased and surprised that Assemblywoman Cervantes actually was fighting for our equestrian lifestyle, and I really appreciate that. That said, in coming weeks, my recommendation will be that Norco join forces with Californians for Community Planning. They are proposing a ballot measure by Californians for Californians to stop Sacramento's centralized zoning, meaning strip the power away from the state legislation to stop them from taking away local control in local zoning issues. Homelessness. Norco views this problem as regional, and we have joined with the city of Corona and spent a huge amount of money to find solutions to the growing issue of homelessness. I have great hope we can do something to end this terrible problem. Heading our council effort is Councilwoman Robin Grunmeyer. She's doing an outstanding job. Thank you, Robin. That said, it is my personal opinion that greater effort should be made by our legislators to influence the governor and courts that essentially tie the hands of cities dealing with this problem. There must be efforts made and funding provided by the state to streamline the development of temporary housing at a reasonable cost, create facilities for those who simply cannot take care of themselves, and get those folks real assistance and get them off the streets. Most folks are not aware, but Council has been supporting efforts to ease the homeless situation for years. We have supported efforts to get homeless veterans into housing and are currently seeking to create veterans low-cost housing. We have supported bills allowing the homeless to take their dogs into shelters. A lot of times they wouldn't go into a shelter because they couldn't take their dogs. And to extend pay and housing for foster kids after turning 18 and aging out of the foster care system. Touching back on the issue of losing local control. This is an image by Norman Rockwell and was the first of 4 paintings entitled 4 Freedoms. And it was inspired by President Franklin D. Roosevelt's State of the Union address to Congress on January 6, 1941. This Rockwell painting has always touched me deeply. This panel represents freedom of speech, meaning, for example, a regular Joe could stand up in front of a local city council or school board and have his say, and his say was respected and it meant something. Now I'm going to pull the old-timer card and say to the young folks listening, losing local control doesn't mean that Sacramento was playing the hero and confronting a bunch of local fat cat elected bureaucrats and NIMBYs, not in my backyard types, intent on abusing the rights of others and circling the wagons unfairly around their communities. That scenario is by and large nonsense used to create a my way or the highway scenario, in my opinion, by a selected few of elites. Losing local control actually means we as Americans are in danger of losing our local voices when standing at a podium in front of those we directly elected, and most importantly, our right and ability to disagree. We must never lose the ability to stand up and make change at a local level, whether at a city council or school board meeting. We must never render local boards, commissions, and councils to the status of puppets with no power to affect local change, a situation that would force local Americans to lobby elected officials and staff hundreds of miles away who in all likelihood have never even visited their community. I never have a problem with local folks banding together, doing the hard work and making change, and even raising a bit of reasonable ruckus. But I do have a problem if we lose our voices, our power to make change locally, due to the legislation created by outside elitism, and yes, laziness by allowing outsiders from hundreds of miles away to strip away local control is wrong. Should that happen, youngsters, you will one day remember my words with deep regret.
Yeah!
Now, I've heard critics who bemoan that Norco has changed, and that is true. But many of those changes are for the better, and most important, we are still standing in the last city in California that is entirely devoted to an equestrian lifestyle. And to date, we still have large lots to trails, in fact, better trails, thanks to Chad Blaze, to huge expanses of open space. It is my hope that I have inspired a few of you to help us protect a pretty nice town. And I pray that we can protect Norco for that little guy right there. So at this time, I would like to take just a moment of silence in honor of Kareem Nakui. Norco does not forget. I thank you all for coming. God bless Norco, and God bless the United States of America.